relationship, a terrible friendship, or a manipulative coworker and wondered, how did I let them in? It is a frustrating and incredibly painful question. You pride yourself on being smart, careful, and intuitive, yet somehow, they slipped right past your guard. The truth is, toxic people do not enter your life with warning signs or red flags waving in the air. If they showed you their true colors on day one, you would have walked away immediately. Instead, toxic people are master illusionists who know exactly how to win your trust first. They understand human psychology better than most, and they use this knowledge to build a perfect trap. To protect yourself in the future, you have to understand the exact mechanisms they use to gain your trust. The first and most powerful tool they use is called love bombing. When you first meet a toxic person, they do not ignore you or treat you poorly. In fact, they do the exact opposite. They shower you with attention, compliments, and validation. They make you feel like you are the most important person in the room, or even the world. They text you constantly, check in on you, and celebrate your smallest achievements. This creates an intense rush of dopamine in your brain. You begin to associate this person with extreme happiness, comfort, and validation. By making you feel this good, they bypass your natural defense systems. You stop analyzing their behavior critically, because your brain is flooded with positive emotions. But love bombing is not just about making you feel good. It is about setting a baseline. They want to establish themselves as the ultimate source of your happiness. Once they achieve this, they move on to the second phase, which is instant chemistry and forced intimacy. Toxic people are incredibly good at creating a false sense of connection. They will tell you things like, "I have never felt this close to anyone so quickly," or "We are exactly alike." They might share a deep, personal secret with you early on. This is a calculated move. When someone shares a secret with us, our natural human instinct is to reciprocate. We feel obligated to share something private in return to match their vulnerability. This creates a psychological bond called forced intimacy. You feel like you have known them for years, even though it has only been a few weeks. You think you have found a soulmate or a best friend, but in reality, you have found a mirror. This brings us to their third tactic, which is mirroring and chameleon behavior. Toxic people often lack a solid sense of their own identity. Instead, they observe you intensely to figure out what you like, what you dislike, what you value, and what you fear. Once they have this information, they morph themselves into your perfect match. If you love hiking, suddenly they are an avid outdoorsman. If you value loyalty above all else, they will constantly talk about how much they hate betrayers. They become whatever you need them to be in order to feel safe. You look at them and think you have found someone who truly understands you. In reality, you are just looking at a reflection of yourself that they are projecting back to you. Another highly effective tool they use is playing the victim to earn your empathy. Humans are naturally wired to help those who are hurting. Toxic people know this, and they use it to their advantage. They will tell you tragic stories about their past, their exes, their families, or their former employers. They will paint a picture of a world that has constantly treated them unfairly. This does two things to your psychology. First, it makes you feel sorry for them, which lowers your guard even further. Second, it activates your savior complex. You want to be the one person who treats them right, the one person who does not abandon them. By appealing to your kindness and empathy, they secure your loyalty before you even realize. They begin the next phase. This phase is called the testing phase, where they slowly push your boundaries to see what you will tolerate. They do not start with major betrayals or massive lies. Instead, they start with very small, seemingly insignificant things. They might make a passive-aggressive joke at your expense and then say, "I was only kidding, you are too sensitive." They might show up late to an important meeting or dinner and offer a weak excuse. If you let these small things slide, they take it as a green light to push further. If you try to call them out, they will immediately use gaslighting to make you doubt your own reality. They will convince you that you misremembered the event, or that you are overreacting. Because they built so much trust and goodwill in the beginning, you choose to believe them. You tell yourself, they are going through a hard time, or they didn't mean it that way. This is exactly how your boundaries get eroded over time, inch by inch. As they erode your boundaries, they simultaneously begin the process of isolation. They want to make sure you do not have a strong support system pointing out their toxic behavior. But they do not do this by forbidding you from seeing your friends or family. That would be too obvious and would raise immediate red flags. Instead, they do it subtly. They will plant small seeds of doubt about the people closest to you. They will say things like, "Your sister seems very jealous of your success," or, "I don't think your best friend really has your back." Over time, you start looking at your loved ones through the toxic person's distorted lens. You slowly pull away from your support system, believing that only the toxic person truly understands and supports you. This leaves you completely dependent on them for validation, advice, and reality checks. Once you are isolated, they introduce intermittent reinforcement. This is the exact same psychological loop that makes gambling so addictive. They stop giving you constant affection and praise, replacing it with coldness, silence, or anger. But just when you are about to give up and leave, they suddenly throw you a bone. They buy you a nice gift, apologize profusely, or bring back the loving person you met on day one. This sudden burst of warmth floods your brain with dopamine once again. You tell yourself, "See? The sweet, amazing person I fell for is still in there." You find yourself constantly working harder, walking on eggshells, just to get back to that initial phase of love and appreciation. You are no longer in a relationship. You are trapped in an addiction cycle. They have successfully trained your brain to associate their chaos with passion and their breadcrumbs of attention with true love. By this point, your trust has been fully weaponized against you. You are defending them to others, ignoring your own intuition and sacrificing your mental health to keep them happy. Understanding this entire process is not about blaming yourself for being fooled. It is about realizing that you were targeted precisely because of your best qualities, your empathy, your loyalty, and your capacity to love. Toxic people do not target weak individuals. They target strong, giving people because those are the ones with resources to take. Now that you know their playbook, you can spot these patterns before the trap closes. Pay attention to anyone who rushes intimacy, ignores your boundaries, or tries to isolate you from loved ones. True trust is not built overnight with grand gestures and intense emotional highs. True trust is built slowly, consistently, and quietly over time. Keep your standards high, guard your boundaries fiercely, and never apologize for protecting your peace. You recognize that you have been caught in this trap. The realization can be devastating. You might feel a deep sense of anger, shame, and self-doubt. You ask yourself how you could have been so blind to the manipulation for so long. But the first and most important step to reclaiming your power is to forgive yourself. You did not fail. You were targeted by a highly skilled manipulator who exploited your best qualities. Your empathy, your kindness, and your willingness to believe the best in people are not weaknesses. They are beautiful human traits, and the toxic person simply took advantage of them. Now it is time to take those traits back and redirect them toward yourself. The process of breaking free begins with the absolute enforcement of your boundaries. The moment you start saying no to a toxic person, their mask will slip completely. They will try to guilt trip you, gaslight you, or throw a tantrum to regain control. This is where you must remain absolutely unshakable. If possible, the best and most effective strategy is to go completely no contact. This means blocking their number, removing them from social media, and avoiding places where they go. You must cut off the supply of attention and emotional energy they feed on. If you must interact with them, such as a coworker or a co-parent, use the gray rock method. Become as boring, uninteresting, and unresponsive as a plain gray rock. Give short, one-word answers. Show zero emotional reaction and keep conversations strictly transactional. When they realize they can no longer get an emotional rise out of you, they will eventually move on. As you distance yourself, you must prepare for the vacuum they leave behind. Because of the intense chemical addiction cycle they created, you will feel a strong urge to go back. You might experience a form of withdrawal, remembering only the good times and ignoring the bad. When this happens, remind yourself that the good times were just the bait used to hook you. Write down a list of every toxic, painful thing they did to you, and read it whenever you feel weak. Reconnect with the support system they tried so hard to tear down. Reach out to the friends, family, or mentors who truly know your worth and love you unconditionally. It might feel embarrassing to admit what happened, but you will be surprised by how much support you receive. Use this time to rebuild your self-esteem and your trust in your own intuition. Your gut instinct, that quiet voice inside you was likely screaming at you from the beginning. You ignored it because the toxic person's validation was so loud. From this day forward, make a promise to always listen to that quiet inner voice. If something feels off, even if you cannot logically explain it, walk away. You do not owe anyone an explanation or a second chance at the expense of your peace. Remember, you cannot change a toxic person, and it is not your job to fix them. Your only responsibility is to protect and heal yourself. By closing the door on toxicity, you open the door to genuine, healthy, and respectful connections. You survived the manipulation, and that makes you stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. The next time a toxic person tries to win your trust, they will find a locked door they can never open. Take a deep breath, trust yourself again, and step forward into your freedom.